way. Thanks for waiting on that one. My name is Todd Lewis. I'm here in Maxwell's Geoservices in Perth. I'm the product manager for LogChief. This is our second webinar for the series for 2017, focusing on importing and exporting configurations. The aim of this webinar is to be quite brief, approximately about 5 to 10 minutes, focus on the direct points and how-tos within LogChief. Again, the topic is importing and exporting configurations. We aim to have a monthly webinar out within this series, looking into some of the key areas of the functionality of LogChief. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to contact me via my email address on the screen or in the questions section of the webinar toolbox. I'll be posting a link to this video online at www.maxgeo.com for all those who would like to refer back to it at a later point. For those who have submitted questions, I'll answer them at the end of this video, and I'll continue to stay online at the end of the webinar just for a couple of minutes if any questions are flowing through. So just to recap, today we'll focus on two topics: exporting a configuration and importing a configuration. So I'll just run through the how-tos of how that all goes ahead. Quite a simple topic, but still a very critical one in the LogChief. Okay, just bear with me a second while I'll cancel the screen down and bring up the next one. Okay, so importing configuration. There's a couple of key points to note before we get into it. With a configuration, any user has at least read writes on a logging profile can import a configuration and from an Excel file and export it from other LogChief instances. The configuration location needs to be located on the C drive, as I will show here. So in your screen is our training configuration. So as you can see here, the configuration _ Maxwell _ training configuration.xml. That's the configuration. Down the bottom is the configuration database with the .back on it, as I've highlighted here. So those are the two essential files that are located within a configuration file. As you can see here, you got your logging profiles will be drilling, your face group, face geology and sampling, the top of the files with all the details inside of them. So when you import, basically for this one, as I am an administrator, I have my MDS located on my SQL instance. As you can see here on the screen, this is my SQL instance. I have the training MDS here. So if you're an administrator, you'd have that on your SQL instance. But for a user, all you have would be your configuration database that will load up into your SQL instance when you load the configuration in. So it depends on whether you're an administrator or a user as to what filing system you all have. So secondly, it's important when you're importing configuration made in SQL 2012 into a machine with SQL 2008, you should remove the database file as it will be incompatible and result in an error. In this case, a live connection to the main database will be required. So basically what that means is if the configuration was made in SQL 2008 and importing to a machine running 2012, then this will not work. The machine can import a lower version but not a higher version. So that's just a couple of key facts out of the way, and I'll show you how to import the configuration. So if you go up to here to your administration, your configuration, your import, this is the screen for the configuration logging profile import page. Over here is your docs. Into your file location where your configuration is. Again, this is the one we're using, the training one. You select the XML configuration _ Maxwell training configuration. All you need to do is press open on that one and it'll populate all the other fields. So the configuration name, when it comes into it, will be the Maxwell training configuration. The database file name is that page that's located within that file that I showed you, the .back one. In here is your database connection. So for mine, as I'm administrator, I'm 2008 R2. The database I showed you previously is the MDS 462. That's our training one that we have for training purposes. This is for administrator. if you were a user, for example, and you were syncing back, your server would be wherever the hosted MDS is, and the database would be the name of that. So select OK, that's fine. As you can see here, you've got the login profile file path, your profile names, and your groups file. That's basically the same, the file path as well. So if we go OK, see the green taskbar down the bottom, and the screen comes up saying configuration has been imported. As you can see here, that's the configuration there with all the profiles. Select OK, your workflows, as you can see here, it's all been imported in, all your profiles and your grid layouts. So that's a quick run through of importing a configuration. So I'll now run through exporting that configuration. So basically a configuration can be exported so that the admin can make changes to the configuration and import them to the field computer very simply. Exporting configuration will export the library data as well as the log data existing in that configuration. The library and log data will be viewed when imported on the new device. So for any of the administrators or users, you can just simply export your config with all your data in it, as well as your library tables. When it's imported from the other end, all those fields will be exactly replicated straight back in how you left it at the configuration. So to export a configuration, it's the same process again. Click on administration cog up the top left, down to export. Very similar screen, it will come up. Sorry, that's the import, apologies. That's the export screen. Select the configuration you'd like to export. This one here is the only one we have in here. The export path, just to note, it has to be on the C drive as well. So this is the tree that it comes up with to browse for a folder. So under mine, it's on the C drive, as you can see here. Down to the LogChief, it just depends on your filing system. For me, it's a LogChief one. And down to the webinar example. Select OK. These are the login profiles that you can export out. So you can either select whichever ones, you can select one until all of them, whichever one you choose. There's the selectable items on here on the right under export. And you press OK. As you can see, it was successful. Same taskbar green along the bottom and the message code appear. So if we go to where the export was, and that's the export that you have come out with. So again, that'll have whatever log data and the library fields that you have at the time of the configuration export will be populated here. So as you can see, it's exactly the same as what I showed you previously, the one that we imported with all the configuration _ Maxwell training config, and that is your Maxwell training configuration database, the dot back down the bottom. Just a thing to note, when you import it and the export, as you can see here, it creates a local configuration database on your SQL instance here, as you can see, Maxwell training configuration, which is an image of the MDS, which stores the data, so then you can push it to the MDS when you require, depending on your user and admin rights or how you have set it up on your logging system. So guys, that's basically importing and exporting configurations. That's a very brief overrun of how it all works. It's a very short webinar. I'd like to thank you all for your time, and I look forward to our next session in the series of the webinars. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the question section of the webinar, and I'll remain for a few minutes online whilst the questions come through. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Otherwise, email them through if you decide to do it at a later time. Thanks again, and I'll speak to you guys soon.